Okay, great. Okay, so we
Hi.
are now live. Hi, everybody. Um, this is so exciting. Welcome to the Women's Voices panel discussion. Um, Thrilled to be doing this in collaboration with Suffrage Forward. It's really exciting to have the opportunity to amplify the voices of women through art. By the way, my name is Cheryl Vaughn. I'm the Executive Director of the Arts Council of Rockland. And before we get into it, because I'm excited to get into it, I just want to tell you all a little bit about the Arts Council of Rockland in case you're not familiar. So I just like to highlight a couple of things that we do. Really, our purpose is that we exist to support and promote the arts and artists in Rockland County. And some of the ways that we do that, it seems like we do a lot actually from my end, but just to highlight a few things, well, at least the panelists are familiar with the fact that we have galleries. So we have two galleries. One is located at our office that's located within the Garner Complex. The other is at the Rockland County Courthouse. We also do workshops year round, and if you're a member, we have monthly workshops that you get to come to for free, which is wonderful. We also have a masterclass program that helps us delve a little bit deeper. Actually, the past couple of months, we started something just in response to what we are all going through. And we were offering some free classes through a program called United We Create. And these went beyond professional development. A lot of them were just an opportunity to connect and do art together. So we did that for adults and children, and they were free to everyone, regardless of whether or not you were a member. And then two other things I just want to mention is that you may be familiar with our annual Arts Awards program. We just had that in June. It's a wonderful opportunity for us to recognize, for artists to recognize each other, get recognition from their peers. And lastly, this year we launched an artist support fund. So this is really an opportunity for us to provide grants solely to Rockland County artists to support their ongoing work. So that's just a few of the things that we have going on, and these are the things that you could take advantage of if you are a member. So if you're not, I hope you'll consider joining us. The membership starts at like $35. So pretty accessible, but I'm going to stop talking so that we can have a lot of time to hear from all of our wonderful panelists. I'm going to turn it over to Carol Perry, who is one of the organizers and moderator for tonight's discussion. She also is one of the board members of Arts Council of Rockland. She's an art consultant, and she also is the former artistic director at a little place called the Edward Hopper House Museum and Study Center, which I'm sure many of you are familiar with. So I'm going to pass it over to you, Carol. Thank you.
Thank you. Hi, everybody. So this year is the 100th anniversary of women gaining the right to vote. And so to celebrate, the Arts Council of Rockland teamed up with Suffrage Forward to create a series of programs. So this panel is one of those programs, and for the panel, we've invited the artists who are participating in the Women's Voices online exhibition. You can find that on the Arts Council of Rockland website. So the artists from that exhibition that are in the panel tonight are Chris Campbell, Jackie Fior, Joyce Kanya, yeah, wave when your name is called, Lisa Lavart, Kellyanne Monahan, Maria Teresa Ortiz Nareto, Lorena Shaw, and Debbie Silverberg. And so we have a lot of artists tonight, and we're going to try to do this in an hour. And so we're going to try to limit somewhat the length of the talks of each artist and interject when we need to, and hopefully have enough time at the end for further discussion and answer some questions. And if you have any questions, there's the Q&A section at the bottom, and you can just fill that in and we'll try to get to your questions afterwards. So to start off, I'm going to introduce Lisa Lavart, who is also a board member of Rockland, and she is helping to moderate this program. and she's also an artist in the show. So, Lisa, there are obviously many ways to express oneself as a woman artist, and one of the ways we've seen this done is by Judy Chicago with her iconic dinner party, in which she pays homage to 39 women from history. You've talked about how your work is also a reaction to the erasure of women from history, and I wonder if you'd like to talk a little bit more about that in relation to your work.
Yep, sure. Hi, Carol. Yeah, so I wanted to tell everyone about this aha moment I had about 20 years ago when I was in a moon circle with a group of women, and we were calling out, or the women in the circle were calling out the name of goddess archetypes, and I was hearing names that I had never heard before. I knew all the Greek and Roman goddesses, but I didn't know names like Arishka Gil and Inanna and Tiamat. And when I started to study that, I was pretty shocked at that I didn't know these names, who were figures, goddesses who were worshipped as the primary goddess for thousands of years, which led me to realize her story was being erased and had been suppressed and was not available. And from that point on, my life's mission really began to find out these goddesses, learn about them, lift them up, and at the same time lift up the women. And I'm a photographer, so I started asking people I knew to be subjects for me, but really it was a way of also for me to learn. I wanted to learn from these women as they chose goddess archetypes to portray. And it was very collaborative. My work is very collaborative. The women, the subjects, choose a myth to portray, and often where to portray it, the intention behind the image. So I think I consider my work activist because it's lifting women's voices, bringing out stories from that have been buried, and that's my intention for my work.
Cheryl, can you bring up the images? Cheryl? Do you hear me? Do you have the images? You're muted, so I don't hear you. We do have, okay. Yeah, so we'll try to look at we'll try to look at some images from the show as we're talking a little bit. Anything else?
So, Carol, do you want to tell us what, there's sort of a definition of feminism, that feminism supports women's empowerment and equality and aims to equalize women. That's feminism. And then feminist art is often known as highlighting women's issues and advocates for women's rights and point of view. So those are what we're going to be talking about with the women's art, and we hope everybody will address that. So should I jump in with Chris, or do you want to look at
let's just quick look at your work since we've talked about it. Let's make sure we all have a good sense of it.
Okay, yeah, so this was a project I started 3 years ago. I reached out to the women of the Ramapo Lenape Nation, which is the indigenous people of this area. And again, it came from, for me, it was a place of ignorance because I didn't know anything about the Lenape peoples who have lived here, cared for this land, been the stewards of this land for so many thousands of years. And the women were amazing who participated in this. And again, it was collaborative, and I learned a lot of stories and sacred stories from the Lenape tribe and nation. On the left is North Star, and that one, yep, North Star.
Make it bigger. Go ahead, sorry.
Yeah, and these are actually all photo encaustics, which is I'm painting on top of the images with beeswax as a preservation. The next one is Cyclone Woman. And that was, all of these were photographed in Rockland County. Can you, there we go. Yeah, and that was up at Perkins Memorial Drive in Bear Mountain in Harriman. Cyclone Woman comes in and creates a lot of destruction and brings in the new. And Thunder Beings are another destructive, but this is also in Harriman, reflection of, they call in the thunder, and they protect the Lenape people from creatures that live in the water and streams and lakes. So yeah, so that's my work.
Nice. Thank you.
Yeah. So I was going to, Chris, I'm going to talk to you about your work. I can't see Chris, but can we?
I can see you.
Can Chris, can you hear me?
I can hear you and I can see you.
Oh, okay. Good, perfect. All right. Well, I love your work, Chris. I'm a big fan of your work. And I have two questions about both what you showed here and your work from your previous work, your large tapestries. I'm going to ask you about that first. Was there a reason why you make these fabulous tapestries that are, you know, huge? They're as big as trees, maybe, and you hang them in Garnerville a lot. Was there a reason that you picked weaving, which is such a women's, there I see you now, with weaving, women's craft? Was that part of your thought process for that work?
Absolutely. I don't know, Cheryl, if you want to go to my website, chriscampbellart.com, and then people can see, it's the first image is one of my new series. Those are all cross-stitched on debris netting. It came out of, I was a mom. I used to work on plexiglass, which is cancerous when you cut it. So when I became pregnant with my first child, I couldn't do that anymore. And oil painting also has health hazards. And it was after my second child was born, my grandmother passed away, who was a fiber artist in Europe. And I got all of her materials. She was a weaver. I'm not a weaver. But in the back of the box of all of her stuff that I got was some embroidery floss. And so being a mom, I needed something that I could pick up, put down, but I could use the ideas that I had developed in grad school, and it worked. It very quickly went to netting, so you can see through it. And once I figured out how to get it off the wall so that people could see both sides, you can see through it. To me, it was a very spiritual, an answer to a spiritual question. Being able to see through something, see both sides, I find that very much close to the human experience.
You know, you talk about color, your work is, and I've found this about the whole show, color is very important. And you talked about the spirituality of color and the images in the show. Cheryl, if you could go back to the images in the show. Those are also reflections, and you had mentioned that they were means, the images were means to inspire other women. Can you talk about that with these?
Yes, so the tapestry work takes an incredible amount of time to make. And so I turned to photography to do a quick, same idea, just do it in an instant. And through that, I figured out that, so to me, color is energy. And I'm trying to figure out how to, so these photographs come out of the idea that photos are images of something. So if you see a pipe, if it's a photograph, it's not a pipe, it's a photo of a pipe. So then these photos are reflections of images. So they're not even photos of real things, they're of the just pure color. I kind of forgot the question. I kind of got.
Well, you had also talked about that you made those images to inspire other women.
Yes, so for this, this was called Women's Voices, and I started thinking about women's voices, and for me, it was the future. So it's the women that are coming up. Like I'm at an age where that's who I'm serving. So it was honoring those voices. How do we make the youth that are coming up, the women that are coming up, help their voices be strong, help their voices be heard, because those are the ones that are going to matter. And that's how I answer the question of women's voices. It's, you know, just as we lean on our 4 women who've done the work to build on, I think that's, it's inspiring. So the idea that it's an image of a girl is just, to me, it starts becoming an icon.
Thank Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. Jackie, thank you so much, Chris.
Sure.
Jackie, your work also is very, relies a lot on color. It seems like a very expressive force for you. And I noticed, Cheryl, if you could go to Jackie's work. So she's down one, right there. Yeah, yeah, very beautiful and very intimate moments that are private moments maybe, but there's no, the faces are obscured. And I wondered if you could talk about that. Was that to express sort of a universality of women, or could you address that?
Sure, I can. The first thing I want to do is to thank all the women in the past that have brought us to where we are. Why do I have faces that aren't clear or faces that are suggestive? It's basically, one, I want to address the universal woman. I want it to be intimate, as you said. For me, feminism is the power that we have when we do every small little thing in life. It doesn't have to be always a political issue, but in every day. And I try to capture these, I guess, mundane moments in one's life that's so overlooked, because there's a lot of power of remembering her story, whether it's in the study of Orange, this young woman who's beautiful. The color is just vibrant. However, if you look in her face, there's this emptiness. Is she seeking? Is there something missing in her life? I think we all, as women, have felt that way. The centerpiece, the mother and daughter. Women are creators. a perfect illustration of tenderness and power, the power of creation, to love. And yes, why do I have a woman's face there and a baby's face? I'm trying to, and I guess this is part of looking at feminism, not just solely as dealing with women's issues, but it's about race issues, it's about class issues, it's about survival issues. And I wanted someone that everybody could identify with. So that's why the no face. And the last one, if I have time to address one.
Yeah, please.
That to me is the power of spiritualism. Here's a woman who's not the beautiful lady like society wants to see, with the small waists and the breasts that are perky and thin thighs. She is the woman of wisdom, the woman who has the spirituality, who looks like, at first, how many people are saying, oh, you have a crucified woman? Well, she's a woman and she's not crucified. If you look carefully at her face, there's this energy, this light, this power, and the bright red robe. You know, I play with my line, I play with the energy on brush, you could see the magic marker also, and also emotional piece that I'm trying to emote. I try to not tell too much to the viewer. I believe the viewer has to come to the painting and have a dialogue, and through that dialogue there's change, or there's questions that come about. If you saw some of my other paintings, the figures, you don't know what their gender is, so they're genderless, which to me plays an important part in looking at where gender is going. Is it only male, female, or is there that discussion of, can I be something else?
Well, I think the picture you're painting really pulls you in with that color. The color is so dynamic and the almost like wings with the paint or coming to the black, the gray behind the robe is beautiful. Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much, Jackie.
Thank you,
You're
Jackie.
welcome.
We're going to talk to Kellyanne. I don't think Joyce is here yet. I mean, are you Joyce? No, I don't see her. So let's go to Kellyanne. Can we look at Kellyanne's work?
Sure. I do see Joyce's name in the panelist list, but okay.
Right,
maybe
but she's not on the she's
Oh,
not
on the
Zoom.
screen. Okay.
I don't see her. I don't. Joyce, are you there? No. Okay. Yeah, so this is Kellyanne's work. Hi, Kellyanne.
Hi.
Yes, so you've been working feverishly lately on these paintings that address climate change and the dramatic effects of weather. And you say that it elicits surprise and awe. And the feminist Eve Ensler contends that our bodies and the earth are intimately connected. Does that resonate with you at all in how you approach your work in this series?
Definitely. I mean, my relationship as like a female artist of landscape, I think plays into two things. Like, one as an observer of her beauty, of Mother Earth's beauty, but then also I think playing into the history of this idea that female power is rooted in the landscape and rooted in nature. For years, I was painting from observation, like landscapes in southern France or even the New York cityscape. But I've always had kind of like a powerful hand. Well, first I'm just going to tell a funny story about being a woman painter and not being identified as a woman painter. When I was in graduate school, I was making, when you go to graduate school, you get your MFA, everybody like has to make giant, big paintings. You get these like bigger spaces. And one day we had a visiting critic come to my studio, or come to the graduate studios, the student studios, and I hadn't arrived yet. And the graduate students the graduate critic started to talk about my work to some of the other students, and referred to me as a him or a he. He thought I was a man. I was making these, not exactly what I'm doing now. I still had a powerful hand, but I was doing these kind of slightly abstracted cityscapes with still like kind of like the beefy, powerful hand. So I thought, and when I arrived, the other students told me, or the critic was embarrassed that he assumed I was a man. And I always wondered, music's coming from I always wondered why, my hand was identified with a man's. I don't know what to take with that or think about that, but like I wasn't allowed to be painting both cityscapes and abstractly with this powerful hand as a woman. But back to the landscape, I connect with the landscape both again as an observer, and I see it both physically and symbolically as a connection to being a woman. And really in the last few years, I think I've been treating these paintings kind of as a cathartic release in reaction to my anxieties about being a woman and a mother and a working woman, a teacher, a working painter, trying to juggle all these things, but then also reacting to everything that's going on, all my anxieties about what's going on in the world. Like these paintings kind of started around the time of the last presidential election, the campaigning and all of the terrible rhetoric that we were hearing from our current chief was very upsetting to me, and I had to react to it somehow. And then I also, of course, there is a history of women painters who paint from the landscape and connect to, the most famous obviously is Georgia O'Keeffe, whose landscapes and floral work was seen as both literally connecting to the female body. And then I've always been a very different vein of work, Anna Mendieta, who naturally actually put the female figure and rooted the female figure into the earth. So yeah, I see lots of different connections. And again, I think these paintings for me are both like a physical cathartic release reaction to what I'm seeing literally happening in the world, and also my reactions as a worried person and hoping or wishing something better will come about.
Yeah, you know, it's funny, your comments about the experience in graduate school. It's a question we kind of wanted to ponder with the whole group, this idea of, is there like a female language form in art? And so obviously there's this expectation by some that there is, but is there? So maybe we can discuss that later if we have time. So keep that in mind.
Joyce is here.
Pardon?
Joyce is here. She just
Okay.
called.
Joyce, you're here. Okay. All right. Well, why don't you, Lisa, why don't you ask your next question and we'll get to Joyce after.
Okay, good. Okay, Anne Kinney, I was gonna, I really enjoyed your paintings. They're very, so let's get them up there. Yeah, very mythical and magical, whimsical. There's a lot of movement, natural movement, and the women at the same time seem very grounded and rooted. You know, they really seem, the figures are magical, but they're still rooted. It's the nature around them which is swirling and very active to me.
Mm-hmm.
Can you talk about that a little bit? Do you want to say, is that?
Yeah, I can. Can you hear me?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Can you guys hear me?
I think we can all hear you, yes.
Oh.
Okay, thank you. All right, all of my work, I have an unstable connection, so if I cut out, just let me know.
Okay.
But all of my work it's always connected. I connect everything, but it's also, I'm a storyteller. I started out as a photographer. I will probably end up as a photographer, but in between I'm painting because I can say more in my paintings than I can with my photography, because I don't manipulate it. It is what it is. If I look at this series of paintings, they're all done years and years apart. But the one that made me put these together this way is the one with the woman with the yellow dress on. And I was very, very much moved. I was shaken by the Me Too movement, the recent one. And I realized that it has to do a lot with bodies. And our bodies, from the time we're children, which are pretty much androgynous, and we think we can do everything, society has forced this framework on our bodies as we get older and we go for our first jobs. And I remember my first job, and they asked me, well, if you train here, you're not going to have children right away, are you? I mean, that's the way I remember my life. And I didn't realize it. I didn't realize it until people came out and said, I am not a body. I'm a person. I'm a thinking, caring, talented, intelligent person. And my body is just something that I happen to have and I was born with. So a lot of that is in my work. The mermaid one, that's probably the first of this. I've done that. I did that one maybe 6 years ago, maybe. And that's just a total freedom. That's a free spirit. That's a free being. There's a lot of symbolism in this. It's my symbolism, and other people can bring their story into my symbols. That's the way it should be. But a lot of my work is framed. I have frames in the frames. This one has, there's picture frames in it and mirrors and things. My other one that we just came from, the whole thing is framed because everything we see, we put in our categories and stuff. And if you go back to the child one, that's, okay, there it is. It's flowing, it's moving. There's a lot of oceans in my work also. There's a lot of wave work and there's a lot of plant work but that's a child in the beginning. Before you know who your body is, what the world thinks of you, you can be anything you want as a child. So I think that's where my journey might start, and I'm not sure where it's going to end. Lately my stuff is very much more involved in the story, and I'm doing a lot of work right now, more than I've ever done now that I'm retired. It's all good. And that's,
Great.
I'm just really excited to see where everything takes me.
Great. We look forward to seeing where it takes you. Thank you. Joyce, I don't see Joyce on the screen. Can you hear me, Joyce? Apparently she's here, but does anybody see her or hear her? She must be in the
waiting room or something like that.
Yeah, maybe she's in the audience section, and so we can't see the people in the audience. So Cheryl, what do you suggest? Can you maybe get her and the link to the panelists?
Yes, so Joyce, if you can hear me, please dial back into Zoom using the panelist ID that was sent to you, and then you'll be here along with the rest of the panelists and we'll be able to see you. Right now we can't see or hear you, unfortunately.
Yeah. Okay, so then next we can talk to Lorena Shaw. Let's look at Lorena's work.
There I am. I'm unmuted.
Okay. So here's Lorena. And Lorena, in your statement, you talk about spending your career as a graphic designer in a male-dominated industry. And I think you said you've only really recently just started showing your work. I don't know if this is your first.
This really, I haven't had much time.
She's busy. So we're happy that you had time to do this. And so
I own my own business, and I'm often, don't actually have the free time to just sit down and really just do what I want to do. And it isn't until recently that I'm actually finding, some freedom for my own personal time. So.
All right. Well, good. So tell me how your past experience in that world shaped this recent output.
Well,
Inspired you.
I think the center one, which is my daughter Cassidy. It just was such a perfect photo, and it just reminded me of so many times in the work environment, my looking over my glasses at somebody, and I might have a smile on my face, but my eyes would be very direct. And you had to hold your own. I mean, up until recently, the industry that I'm in has been very male dominated, and I have dealt with comments made, ways to control you, smile, you look so much prettier. Because you're getting up and like, no, I don't want to do it this way. We have to do it this way. And so they, you get thrown these little side comments at you, about your hormonal balance or things like that. And you can't, you would have to tolerate it. You'd be like, yes, but your eyes would be saying, yeah, and that's it. And this one here is, I have 3 daughters right now with me, and they're all, 2 of them have entered into the workforce, and the youngest is, in college, and she's got all these plans and everything. And this particular piece was paying a homage to the struggle the women before us have had. Being thankful for what you have now, because these women did what they did. But the struggle isn't over. And you mentioned the thing about women and children. And that struggle is still there, because I think the hardest thing for women right now, especially in a work environment, or to be viewed as somebody that is more than a baby machine. These young girls go, and you have, some people have asked me for advice, and I'm like, take off the diamond ring. If they ask anything that's going on, do not mention the fact that you're getting married, because they start doing the calculation. 2 years from now, are you going to be on maternity leave? Are you coming back? So there's still that struggle. And until, and it's not just male. I mean, it's the same situation. If a woman is hiring somebody, she's looking at the same situation that she has. She has a budget, and this is, what does she do? And until corporations really start providing more of an environment for women to actually participate and still do what they're naturally are meant to do, have children, there's still going to be that struggle for women.
Yeah. Thank you. That's great.
Can I just say one thing, Carol? The title I was just going to say the title of that piece was like same fight. It's like, are we still doing this? You know, like we've been fighting this fight, and I thought that was interesting. Like we're still battling over control of
Right.
women's
What
bodies.
was, yeah, I don't see the title. What was the title on that?
New
Mariana?
gen, same
Again,
fight.
same fight.
Right.
So we're still battling over women's bodies and who gets to control them and who, you know, like.
And it's 50 years. I think it's yeah, I guess there's 50 years between each one that I have there, because you have the what is it, 1920s, I think I have there, and then I have the 1970s, and then today of 2020.
Right.
It's a 50-year span, and
That's awesome.
it's still the same struggle.
Right.
So, although I will say that I just was reading that Helen Frankenthaler had her auction record a couple days ago of like some 7 or 8 million. It's nothing like what Pollock had, of course, but you know, it's a record for her. And the women at the, all the women in the Sotheby's auction sold for like 80 some million. Like it's way more than it was, even in this time online, in the online auctions, you know, they did pretty well. So there's hope. Let's keep going. So Lisa, you want to go next? Take some.
Okay, Maria Teresa Ortiz Narito. I'd love to talk about your work.
Hi, I'm ready.
Yeah, okay, good. I love your images. They're so visceral and there's so much passion and movement in them all. And the movement, it's like a hurricane is going through. The hair is whipping around, and it's just a lot of energy. It's very energetic. And so, well, actually, I wanted to know about the last one, the third one, Shrinks. Can you tell us about that, what that means, and what you were trying to say with these portraits?
Well, first, I would like to tell you that one of my, I made many things with these paintings, and one of the artists I was thinking of is a sculpture made by Gian Lorenzo Bernini, which is Apollo and Daphne, that you can circulate around and you see Daphne's transformation, in which the tree comes from the outside and revolves around the body of Daphne. So I came out with the idea that I wanted to do two things in these paintings. First, wipe out the body, only concentrate in the faces. In the moment in which these nymphs transform, which should be painful, should show suffering. And the other thing I want to show is that transformation comes from the inside out. So instead of what Bernini was doing from the outside, the tree was like surrounding the body of Daphne. I want that the whole body, I mean, which is the face, actually the head, come from the inside to outside. So it's very symbolic in that sense, because transformations really come from the inside, not from the outside. And those are energetics because I want to show passion. I want to show this transformation like something heroic. I want to, these faces become heroines. The nymph, I put the nymph in a new rank. Instead of inferior divinities, I wanted to put it in the higher level because they are heroes. And the one interesting thing that happened with these paintings is when I planned to make it, I was asking friends. I wanted the face of friends instead of my own.
Oh.
Nobody wanted to help me because I didn't want to make beauty face. I want to make and express this pain that you are seeing specifically in this one.
Mm-hmm.
You see like a silent yell. It's tactile, but you can also feel the sound because the shrine actually become is the sound what is part of the transformation of this nymph. Mm-hmm. So because I wanted to do that, everybody said, yes, I will help you, but I couldn't sleep at night thinking that I had to do this. So finally, it became my own face.
That's your face? That's you?
All of them.
All of them. Oh, Cheryl, can you show the other images as well?
And others are more obvious. You can see in Daphne, it's more obvious that it's my face, but I didn't want to make a strict representation of myself, but I was actually the model.
Oh.
That's an interesting twist I want to make, and I try to represent like an archetypal of this transformation in every one of them. But it's actually me without being me.
And you were just talking about nymphs. I think I heard you say you do a lot with mythology also, yes?
Yes, I work. I mean, I study art history, so that come out all the time in my work.
Mm-hmm.
So it seems sometimes very innocent, but actually it's not. There are a lot of symbology behind every single painting I am always showing. And I am always looking at artists from Renaissance, Baroque, which are the periods I study the most. Mm-hmm. And I really like and enjoy. So I am bringing that into a contemporary language, because if you see and observe, these three paintings are actually selfies. I wipe out the bodies. In the tradition, the long tradition of nymph representation on the nymph iconology, you can see that the body is the main topic, because it's all the sensuality and that
youth. They're very youthful.
Yeah,
nymphs are youthful, and these are not youthful pictures.
Exactly. But it's purposely I am using the name of nymph. I am trying to bring a new symbology into this iconography, which is more contemporary. Because, as I said, those are selfies. I wipe out bodies. Those images are not sensual, but they become new heroes. They are heroines. They have a new status. So I given a new view on a long tradition of this kind of iconology.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah.
So,
oh, I got both going.
Oh, there's Joyce. Hi, Joyce. Am I
hold on, I got two going now. All right.
Okay.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, let me just, I got to turn off one of my Zoom.
Okay. Okay, Cheryl, can you go to Joyce?
Okay.
Oh,
can you hear me now, or are you doing somebody else?
No, that's much better. That's good.
Okay. Well, somehow my iPad just wouldn't work. So I finally shut it off. Okay. So you can see me and everything?
Okay. Okay. All right. So this is Joyce Kanyuk, and Joyce has a lot of different types of work, but again, color is a big part of it. Very expressive use of color. Joyce, let's see. You said that your goal as an artist is to capture the beauty and serenity of a landscape or a flower or a figure.
Oh, I sound like I can't hear.
You can't hear?
Oh, I can hear you, but yeah, and now in the figure, because I'm a big landscape painter too, but lately I've been doing all figure.
Yeah, and the women in not in all of your paintings, but in these paintings that you're exhibiting here are particularly, strong. They're projecting a certain no nonsense attitude, two of them looking directly at the viewer in sort of defiance. Do you want to talk a little bit about how you view these women in your work? Tell me what you think these women are all about. Can you hear me? Are you frozen?
Oh,
yeah.
Well, you were breaking up for me. But
Yeah.
but I did hear that they're strong. Yes.
Yeah.
And I kind of do women who are of a certain age, but who have an attitude, because women are, you know, once we hit 50, we don't exist anymore. We're invisible. I'm painting women with attitude, strong women, and I use strong color. I abstract a little bit in shape and everything, and I'm trying to show the strength of women, and that age is not a factor.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Because, I mean, you could read them almost any age. I mean, the one on the right does seem older, but the one in the middle, it could be just her, you know, yeah, it's not about that to me.
Yeah. And lately, if you could get onto my website, I know it might take too long, I've been grouping. I took a lot of these paintings that I had done, and then in the corner, you see the small one. If you click on, yeah, that's what I've been doing lately. I've been, and if you could keep, yeah, I've been grouping, taking a lot of these paintings that apart and assembling them and trying to use color and you see how the strength of all the women, you know, that I am woman, I am strong, remember from the 70s, but that's kind of what I'm trying to show.
Okay, that's great. Is there anything else you want to say about that? Yeah, it really, and there's a lot of other women, groupings of women, nude women, and just, they're just taking control.
Exactly. That's what I've been doing. Like, I call this my quarantine series. So all this came after I had submitted to the feminist thing,
Oh,
but
wow.
I still think I'm saying the same thing,
right.
That women are beautiful, women are strong.
Okay. Yeah, there's a lot of inspiration these days to create new work. I can't wait to see what comes out of it. Okay, so thank you, Joyce. Lastly, we have Debbie Silverberg. Should we go to Debbie's work? So Debbie has one work here exhibited here, but with most of your work, if not all, I know you use traditionally women's techniques like crochet or knitting. Now it could be crochet. I don't know. I can't tell whether it's crochet or knitting, frankly. And you know, and you learn that from your grandmother, which is lovely. But in your work, you're recontextualizing these techniques by adding found objects and eliminating the functional aspect of them. So can you talk about how you use materials to convey the meaning in your work?
So this particular piece, I need to say, this particular piece was my reaction to, again, to the Me Too movement and to it being Black History Month. And I have to say that I will never know what it's like to be a Black woman who feels caged. I can only speak from a white woman's perspective, and having had numerous experiences that allow me very strongly to use the hashtag #MeToo, this particular piece struck me. The face on this woman struck me, and the fact that she's wearing feathers like she was a bird stuck in a cage really spoke to me. In terms of crocheting, which is what I do for my work, sometimes it's a foreground. I use it as a foreground. Sometimes like I do now. Sometimes I use it as the main piece. But there is always a touch of my grandmother in it. And then I love found objects, and I live in a 100-year-old house, and you can walk anywhere in my house and find pieces of pottery and glass and things like that. So the bottom pieces are pottery. For me, what I sometimes struggle with is because I use textiles, it's considered a craft and not an art. form. Even going to a place like Barnes and Noble, if you want a book on crocheting, you go to the craft section. If you want a book on photography or painting, you go to the art section. And I think that's based on it being perceived as women's work or something that's not quite as important or as meaningful as
One sec.
being a
Cheryl,
woman.
can you show a close-up of the work? Can you zoom in a little bit? Yeah. Okay, thank you. I'm sorry.
So, so yes, so there's a piece, so that's my piece. And then I shaped it to look sort of like Africa. That was what I was going for with the pieces of pottery and the stained glass. And I covered it in gold because I feel as though despite being in a cage, women are golden, that what they can accomplish is golden. And using the gold thread throughout to attach the pottery and the stained glass and to work with her sense of orange and red and fire. That's my meaning behind this painting.
Okay.
There's a question from Chris. She asked whether the black background that's part of it. How did you attach them, or?
Yes. So I used the gold thread to stitch them on, and I glued on the the stock photo, and then I intertwined the gold wire to make the cage. So yes, they're all attached, and it's attached to, the whole thing is attached to a piece of wood that's covered by the black crochet.
Okay. So yeah, so that's everybody's given us a little overview of their work. Does anybody have anything they'd like to add? Let me see if there's any other questions. Okay. Any comments from the panelists?
I like to comment on what Debbie was saying, that about this idea of like what is considered artistic materials, or like the materials are sometimes considered for women, or that and that's that crafts tend to be considered lower in the artistic totem pole. I think that's obviously like something that should really be changed. And something I just like to say, I teach college, and the interesting thing is I also went to an all-women's art school in Philadelphia, and most of my students are women. Like I have sometimes, I would say my art classes are 80% to sometimes 100% girls in my fine art or studio classes. But then when you still look at the main art market or art galleries or museums, women are still really underrepresented, and it really still perplexes me. I think it's been a trend for years in college education that women are the bulk of the art majors. So it's very strange, like where is that disconnect? On the other hand, flipping the lid about the idea of, I did hear a visiting artist speak, a woman artist lecturer speak. She went to the Pennsylvania Academy in Philadelphia, learned very traditional observational figurative painting. And she said at a point she felt like she had to abandon figurative painting because it was a man's art. And she started doing sew and paper. At the same time, I take issue with that as well. That's like saying to women, oh, you can't become a doctor or an architect because the history of that field has been men. At the same time, I don't think we should say to ourselves, oh, I can only do what's been the tradition of women's art. Like, I think women have to I think we should be able to do it all, is basically what I'm saying. Like, sew, make ceramics, paint. Like, nobody should tell us, like, this is a woman's art, or because it's been historically that men have been given attention for a field that necessarily has to be that. I don't think we should be putting ourselves in boxes. I think that defeats the purpose. I think it all needs to be lifted up and pushed forward.
Yeah.
Carol, I just wanted to say something to Kellyanne. There are like statistics that they're, maybe it's, I don't know what they are off the top of my head, but like 60% of art classes are women, and then there's only 10% of their work in museums.
Exactly.
Something like that. And I actually was going to bring up, I follow an organization called Women Photograph, and they track what major newspapers, how much they, the bylines, how many bylines they have of women.
Women, like photojournalists?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So I had a couple of numbers here, like in 2019, the Wall Street Journal used 7.7% of women photographers. The Guardian was 12.8%. The Washington Post was 25%, and the New York Times was 31%. So that's how many women photographs are being used. And I wondered whether anybody on the panel had, you know, you just spoke about that, but anybody else in their life felt that they hadn't achieved something or butted up against that percentage. You know, you could say your work wasn't shown somewhere. Did you feel anything direct? Do you have any direct experience?
Yeah. Do you want me to share another story? Well, I made friends with this artist in graduate school. Another art form I do a lot is monotype printmaking. I make a lot of these like black and white painterly prints. Are you familiar with the monotype process? It's a one-off prints. Painters love it. Well, Degas and Gauguin, those two wonderful fellows, are credited with kind of pioneering monotypes. But I really got into the process in printmaking classes. It's kind of like my version of drawing. But a male colleague who was in my circle of graduate school friends asked to come visit my studio postgraduate and ask if I would show him my monotype technique and teach him a lesson. So I taught him a lesson, and then he started doing the technique. And then another male artist of ours, like in a broader circle, saw his monotypes and then saw mine at a different show. And he said, "Oh, you must have got that from so-and-so, that idea, that process." I was like, no, it's the exact opposite. I taught him or shared with him. He was, you know, I taught him the technique. So it was just like, I was infuriated. Like, I was like, what? You know, it was just such a strange assumption. It really was very upsetting.
Can I share a book? Because I found this really amazing book. It's called Women in Art. It's 50 fearless creatives who inspired the world. And to sort of prepare myself for this, I bought it and started reading it. There are more women in here representing more architecture, painting, sculpting, finding art in the street. And so it's one page on each artist. And I highly recommend it because it's, for me, it's all the forgotten or hidden women and as artists and all the contributions they made in simple, wonderful form that's beautifully illustrated. So I'm recommending a book.
Great. We did a dinner party for these artists to be shown and appreciated.
Debbie, could you write the name of the author in the chat group? I mean, the chat.
Sure.
Yeah, actually, it's just about 9 o'clock, so we're kind of out of time. If nobody has any more questions, comments, we could go much deeper, of course, but we're limited in time. And I want to, Lisa, I want to just comment on Suffrage Forward. Do you have anything else you want to add to this regarding the panel?
No, I thank you all the women for being a part of this and bringing your beautiful work to the show. Thank you so much. And
thank you. And I encourage you all to go to the website, artscouncilofrockland.org, and visit the website, the page for this show, and look at all the artists, because there's some wonderful artists. They all couldn't be here on this panel, but they're worth visiting. And again, we mentioned that this panel was in collaboration with Suffrage Forward, and Suffrage Forward is an organization that came together. Paulette Ross has spearheaded this to recognize the women of past and present and future who are, you know, fighting this fight. And so they have a website, suffrageforward.com. I believe it's .com. And coming up next week and later in August, they're doing a 3-part series with readings and entertainment with some very well-known celebrities who are participating. And it's definitely worth checking out. And that's July 9th, August 6th, and August 24th or 25th, I believe. Check out the website, suffrageforward.com. And thank you, everybody.
And I also want to just encourage everyone to, and the viewers or whatever viewers, to join ACOR. Membership is what makes everything keep going.
Yes, and thanks Cheryl for leading the charge.